All right. Tonight we got Mr. Zach Lucas. My man's from West Virginia, big time turkey hunter. I've kept up with him for years through social media. And man, I'm super pumped that you're on here. Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you having me. It's good to finally talk to you a little bit instead of just through Messenger on Facebook and everything.
Yeah, we've been trying to line this up for a little bit and our schedules just ain't worked out, but we got it right tonight though.
Yeah, it's going to be good talking to you and hopefully get into some good turkey talk here.
Yeah, man. So first thing, first things first, I seen you post a video with Van Sice. How was that?
Yeah, that was something. I grew up and watched Matt, all through his mad call days and all that kind of stuff when I was growing up as a kid, and kept up with his calling career, obviously, like a lot of people. And I mean, I look up to a lot of those guys in the hunting industry, like a lot of people do, and never really dreamed that I would have a chance to share a tree with him in the woods. I mean, Matt's only from PA, so I mean, he's not that far from me, and he comes down and hunts West Virginia quite often anyway. But last year he reached out to me, messaged me and said, "Hey, let's try to get together and do a hunt or something." And I was like, "Dude, anytime you want to come down and hunt, is you got it. It's wide open." So yeah, that was a really surreal experience, really. I mean, I had talked to Matt on social media a lot over years. Bought a lot of calls from him. Had a pretty decent relationship with him, but not, like that. And then, we got to talking last spring and just kind of hit it off. And then he came down and hunted, and now we're really good friends. And I actually just talked to him on the phone 2 nights ago. We were talking about calling and stuff, and trying to get a hunt together this spring. So that's going to happen. So be looking for a redemption video hopefully this spring. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I seen that on there and anybody that doesn't know, in the calling world, Matt Van Sice he'll probably go down as the in our generation for sure, the greatest of all time.
yep.
Um, Phenomenal caller, man. I tell you what, we were in Nashville a few years ago and he got up there and I I think I want to say it was a friction. It may have been the open, I can't remember, but I remember he got up there, everybody went through the sequence, but when he got to the fly down, man, I mean, pop, 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 I mean, just come, dude, and it sounded, and the guy sitting in front of me, I don't know who he was, but he turned and looked at his buddy and he said, "That's a fly down." I was like, "Yeah, 100%." And me and my wife were there, it's those guys on that stage are a different breed, man. I mean, they are some phenomenal callers, but to be the guy that stands head and shoulders above them and to do
Yep.
it for as long as he's done, that's a phenomenal feat, you
Yeah,
know.
it's incredible. And I've heard him call on stage several times, and I, obviously I heard him call that day in the woods in person, and it's as real as it gets. I mean, there's nobody touching it. I mean, and he, like you said, he's head and shoulders above them. And he's just set the bar. He set the bar so high. But just being around Matt now for a while and talking to him and having a pretty good relationship, that dude's on another level as far as just being in his zone. It's like Michael Jordan in his zone. I mean, he's the
Yep.
greatest. So I mean, he gets in this zone, especially around Grand Nationals time. That's just, you can't, you just got to kind of let him be, do his thing. He's there for one reason and one reason only, and he goes there and he does his thing. So
Yeah.
just respect him a lot for sure.
1000%. And man, I had Scott Ellis on uh a few episodes ago. And the difference between those guys that can call on the stage is the fact that they can get up there, they can produce that sound exactly how they want to produce it in that little bit of time. That is hard to do. That is very hard to, I mean, I mean, you a turkey caller, build your own calls and all that stuff. That is really, really hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking to Denny Galvis on the phone a couple nights ago, and we were talking about recording yourself calling and how
Oh yeah.
people I think that, and he agreed with me. He was actually the one that said it, but I agreed with him. But I think that when you hit that record button and you know you're being recorded, it's almost like you tighten up.
Oh
You're
yeah.
trying to be, and Denny said it really well. You're trying to be perfect, and a hen's not perfect,
No.
but in that little short amount of time, like you just said, that you're recording or that you're on that stage, you're trying to be perfect. And you know those guys that have done it so long, like Matt has, they've learned to just stick to their thing. They know they've done it so much, it's not even a nerve thing anymore, I don't think, for them. And they might tell you something different, but that's just my opinion of it. But I know myself personally, if I turn the record, like if I'm calling in the yard and I think, man, I sound good, I should be recording this. As soon as I hit record, I just tighten up for some reason. It's just a natural thing that a lot of people
Yes.
do. But but yeah, those guys, man, tons of respect to them because it's another level, like you said.
It is, and it's funny. It's funny you did bring that up because I know recording me, like doing my sound files for my calls and stuff. I can't tell how many times that I've run calls and it would kill turkeys all day. It's no problem. But I
Yeah,
know there's a select few of guys that are listening for those little incremental sounds, and they're like, either that's what they're looking for, or that's not what they're looking for,
right,
and those little slip ups, and like you said, hens in the woods, most hens in the woods could not win on a stage.
right.
And when you listen to them and you hear that, it's just that raw, that almost raw emotion, I guess you could call it. And you hear that, and then it's almost like you kind of, especially if you're sitting down, calling in the woods, it's almost like, okay, well, I can take it down a couple notches, especially if you're kind of in a duel with a him. But yeah, sitting out there, like you're saying, recording yourself, it is a it almost constricts your lungs just a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
because when you post that, you're posting it to guys that have ears that have been listening
Oh
for a
yeah.
long, long time. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
you're putting yourself out there for, criticism or
oh yeah,
critique, whatever. You're putting it out there, like you said, to people that have an ear for the wild turkey. And you know, a lot of people, and me and Denny were talking about this, a lot of people are getting caught up in, well, I want to sound like Matt, or well, I want to sound like Jesse, or I want to sound like Dave Owens. And really the bar is the hen. And like you said, the a lot of hens probably wouldn't win a competition. And like Denny said, the hens aren't perfect. They all have inflections and they all have different tones, but they're all real. Every
yep,
hen, there's no denying it. It's a real hen. When she starts going, she's real. She's the real deal. And so instead
yep,
of instead of listening to these other callers and kind of setting our bar at Matt or setting our bar at whoever,
yep,
set the bar at her. She's the bar. She sets the standard. You know what I mean? She's
yes,
the ultimate goal, and nobody will probably ever reach that goal, even the best of the best. But she's the goal to try to get to. And going back to what you said about hens in the woods calling with emotion in their voice or whatever. And I was talking to a buddy last night on the phone actually, and we were talking about that exact same thing. And I feel like when you're calling at the house, just to yourself or to recording yourself or whatever, you're not able to get that same emotion.
yep,
But when you're in a hunt, you let that hunt dictate how you call. You let that
yes,
bird dictate how you call. You let
yep,
the hen that you're talking to or the gobbler that you're talking to dictate how you call, and then you call with emotion and inflection in your voice, almost like you're excited or
yes.
whatever, or you're calling out to them. So it's a hard thing at the house for a lot of people, for me, to go out in the yard and call with the same emotion that I do in a hunt. Just you can't really replicate that, really, unless you're just so zoned in, I guess.
That's a really good point. Um, I tell everybody, everybody that I talk to, especially these guys that are trying to they're trying to go to that next level of calling. And they always say, like you said, they're trying to sound like Van Sice or Ellis or Dave Owens. They're trying to sound like these guys, that are on the stage. And I always tell them, I say, man, you will never, I don't care how much practice you put in, you will never sound like those guys.
Yep.
Those guys, I've listened to those turkey callers for years, and I can close my eyes, and when they come on stage, as soon as they open their mouth, I know exactly who they are, because God made our lungs different, He made our mouths different, the way we run air, our teeth, everything, it affects the sound of that call.
Yep.
And I always tell these people, always try to sound like a hen. That, because like you said, she sets the bar. And I cannot tell you, Zach, I can't tell you how many times, man, I've sat in the woods and wherever I'm at, in state or out of state, and a hen will start calling, and I'll actually start taking it down a notch. I won't try to do all the complicated stuff, just call just with her, and it'll be a slower rhythm, it'll be a more simplistic cadence, and and the turkey's gobbling at her, and you're like, well, that's what I need to sound like, and in the back of your head as a caller that's trying to be a perfectionist, you hear it and you go, she would never win a competition anywhere, you know?
Well, and it's funny that you say, you can close your eyes and you know which caller, because I did exactly that, because I didn't get to stay for the finals this year. We had to leave, but on the way home I had it playing in the car, and I wasn't
Hmm.
watching. And they would get
Yep.
up there and call, and from the first sequence I would know who it was on the
Yep.
stage. And I actually heard Mark Prudhomme, or saw Mark Prudhomme, comment on that, because some people were saying that they didn't like the format, or they didn't care for the judges or whatever, because they thought those judges probably knew who those people were. And Mark Prudhomme said those judges know exactly who those people are when they step on the stage. They've heard them
They do.
enough, but
They
they're
do.
not judging that person. They're judging that
Yep.
hint,
Yep.
on the stage. And so those judges have a really hard job, because they have to get, in their mind, they have to be, so zoned in themselves that they're
Yep.
really focused on just the sound, not
Yep.
who's making the sound or whatever it may be, but they're focused on how that hen is talking and how that sequence is being portrayed, and if it's real, and I just, kudos to those judges, because that's a hard job for sure.
It's a that's a very hard job. Have you ever judged a competition?
I haven't. I've been asked to judge a couple, and just schedule conflicts, I just wasn't able to here in West Virginia. But
Yeah.
no, I haven't judged one.
Yeah, that's back back when I used to do a bunch of competition calling. I mean, we would sit there and I mean us, the guys calling, I mean, we would sit there and you would listen to 20 guys go in a row, and I've always wondered how numb people's ears get, because I know my ears get numb listening just to myself here at the house,
Yep.
and listening to those guys run, what, no matter which stick you pull, listening to it from 1 to 20 or whoever, however many people it is, it is really hard to listen to that amount of people and to pick out, especially if they're good callers.
Oh
And
yeah.
then you scale that up to the prelims at the Grand Nationals, and then you take the best of the best to go to the next stage
Yep.
for what we see, on the Facebook Lives, on YouTube and everything. For those judges to pick out those little, and they have to, because that's the only way to separate those callers, and those callers are getting judged by half a point. So
Oh yeah.
anybody that doesn't know, when they judge calling competitions, it's a 0, I guess a 1 to 20 scale, 20 being perfect, 1 being not perfect. um, and when they get to that level on the Grand Nationals, they are splitting hairs. I mean, you're
Yep.
you're talking 20s and 19 and a halves. That's how close those guys are. And I mean, they are phenomenal callers.
Yeah, and it really is that tight. I mean, you listen to those guys. There's not much of anything at all that separates
No,
them. They're all
no.
they're all phenomenal, really. But
Yeah, I remember my first time. I've always wanted to go to the National Wild Turkey convention there in Nashville. If anybody's listening to this that wants to go, go. It is the funnest trip you'll have. And if you like hunting it at all, if you just like hunting, you're going to go there and you are going to absolutely love that place. And I told at the time she was my girlfriend, and I told her, I was like, hey, I said, I'm gonna go to Nashville to this convention. She's like, what is it? And she's a big hunter too. My wife hunts with me. She's my wife now, but and I told her, and she started looking up stuff, and she ended up booking the hotel for us. And she was like, all right, we're going. You know, went down there, and dude, I'm telling you, when I walked in, I did not realize how many guys or people in general loved turkey hunting the way that we do. I had no idea.
Yeah. It's last year was my first time to go, and I went with a couple buddies, and I was just like a kid in a candy store,
Yeah.
and 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 I'm friends with so many guys in the turkey community, hunted with a bunch of them at this point, and talked to them all year long. They're my buddies, and keep up with them even out of turkey season. And so it was just really like great to just get there and see everybody and catch up with everybody and all that. And um, we took in a lot more of the calling last year, and then this year I went back and I came home last year and said I'll never miss that again if I can help it,
Yeah.
because it's just so much fun. And so this year I got to take my wife and kids with me, and we kind of made it a family trip. And I got to go to the convention one day all by myself and just see everybody and see everything and take it all in. And then we went back the following day. We went to downtown Nashville and enjoyed that as a family. And then we went back to the convention and walked around for a few hours, took in a little bit of the calling and stuff, and then we left on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, if you're a hunter, especially a turkey hunter, you owe it to yourself to go, because it is so much fun.
It's so much fun. And so we went that first year, and I can't remember, we went like from Friday to Sunday or something. But the next year I told her, I said, I want to go and see the owl calling. I want to see the whole show.
Yeah,
And we went, dude, the owl calling ended up being my favorite. Because you hear, I mean, there's guys that get out there that have made it that far with their natural voice, which is
yeah.
phenomenal, man. You
Oh
know, because
yeah,
that's what I do. I use my natural voice
yeah. I do too.
too. You the same?
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. And to get out there and hear those guys, you're like, my gosh, these dudes are awesome. And the whole time I think in my head, I'm like, I hope that guy's not hunting in the same place as I'm hunting, because that son of a gun's good, you know. And but it's so much fun, man, going there and seeing all the big names, you know,
Yeah,
and then you see the people like me and you that see each other on Facebook and on, Sound File Central and all that stuff. You
yeah,
get to see all those people, you'd shake their hand and talk to them in person. It really is an awesome time. So if anybody's listening, highly advise you to go, man. It is a super fun time, and you're gonna learn something from somebody there. There's a lot of really good turkey hunters there, hunters in general.
yeah. Well, and I talked to a lot of people, and I told several of my buddies when I got back, I said, what a lot of people don't understand is some of the best turkey hunters in under that roof are people that nobody even knows. I
Yes,
mean, there are
100%.
there are some straight up killers in there that nobody even knows who their name is. So
Yes.
that's pretty cool. And being in the the tight knit circle is something that I really cherish. And so I know a lot of those guys, but there will be a lot of people in there that have no clue who they are. And
Mhm.
and so that's what I was telling some of my buddies when I got back. I said, yeah, some of them guys. I sent a picture of Striker Die to one of my buddies, because I got a picture with Striker. I'm good friends with Darren. And Striker had all them spurs around his neck. And one of my buddies
Yeah.
was like, "Who is that kid?" And I'm like, "Dude, that kid is a killer."
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I had a guy on a few episodes ago. I can't remember which one it was, but we were talking about it, and I said, "Dude, there's guys around the house right here that I've run into, or like I've heard through the grapevine. They're like, man, that dude right there whacks them, like,
Yep.
and I don't even know who they are. And I'm like, and it's so funny. And then you go to these conventions, or the convention, I guess you could say, and you meet people from all over, like you say, and you're like, they're not on a stage. They don't have some big following or anything. But son, you drop them on a block of woods, they're gonna kill anything in there. And it's like that to me, man. I mean, I think that is so awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty, I guess I'll use the word honored. I'm honored and privileged that I can call a lot of those people my friends.
Yeah,
And I talk to a lot of them on a very regular basis. Um, and like I said, not just during turkey season, we talk throughout the year, quite a bit. And so, but like I've told people before, turkeys are different. The turkey community is different.
it's
It's
different.
much
Yeah,
different from deer or waterfowl or whatever. It's a different
100%.
it's a different family. It's a different uh clique or whatever you want to call it, club of people. I've always heard it say that that it is like it's like a secret society almost. You know what I mean? There's
It
a lot
is.
of especially with the old school hunters, it was very secret society. They wouldn't
Yes.
tell you much at
Yeah.
all. But it's one of those things, and I've said this in a video before, but it's one of those things where when you talk to somebody from the very first go, if you're going to click with them, and if
Yeah.
they're on the same wavelength as you are as when it comes to
Hmm.
turkeys, so much so that you can drive clear across the country never meeting this person and meet them at a gate at 3 a.m. in the morning and shake their hand and go kill a turkey
Yep.
with them. And I've done it a lot. I've done it.
Yeah.
And one of my very, very best friends, I was telling somebody on a podcast the other day, one of my very best friends I met on the old Gobbler forum when it was
Oh
big
yeah.
back in the day. I
Yep.
met him because I went on there asking for something about Virginia, and he responded to me. We got to talking and stuff, and I was younger at the time, and that was actually my first out of state trip, and told my dad, hey, I met this guy online, and I'm going to go and hunt with him. And my dad don't trust me. And he was like, "No, you're not." And I said,
Nah,
"Yeah, I
I
I'm
don't.
driving to Virginia and I'm hunting with this guy." And he was like, "Well, I'm going with you because he might dump you over the guardrail somewhere." And
Yep.
I was like, I mean, I just had a feeling from then, that and anyway, we killed a turkey. Actually, that turkey right there, we killed it. And it's a funny story because he took me in there, killed that turkey. That was my first out of state turkey, first one on film, and it was a double beard. It was my first double beard. And the
Wow.
guy that I met and hunted with there, he's like, "You sucker! I've hunted this place for 30 years, and you come in here and kill a double beard, and I've never killed a double beard." And so, but yeah,
Yep.
me and him are like great friends now, and it's just a funny story, and that kind of led to what I do today. Is I mean, I meet so many people and hunt with so many people out of state that I've never met in person. I've just
Yep.
talked to on the phone or whatever, and we just are like, "Hey, let's go," So
That's and it's well, I mean, look right now, right? I mean, prime
yep,
example. And dude, that is so true. The secret society thing, and I've heard people put it that way before. That is so true because you have the waterfowl, you've got the deer hunting. Those are different kind of communities, you know.
yeah,
Um, Old Gobbler got a lot of traction back in the day.
yeah,
And I don't get on there much anymore, but because
either.
with Facebook, but dude, that was the website back in the day, you know.
Yep,
And you learn like, man, there's a lot of people that are into this, like kind of like me, you know. And it is funny because you can meet some of the greatest people on the road, going and meeting them just like you did, killing that bird there.
yep,
And you can just meet some of the best people going and staying at their house or meeting them at a gate and just hunting with them, and you really truly appreciate that friendship, and I believe that friendship lasts a lifetime, man. And when you especially when you invest that much time and money into going somewhere like you did, you're going out of state, and it don't even have to be out of state, but just like going investing time into something and going and meeting somebody, just taking a chance. I think the person receiving that, I think it means a lot to them too. And I'm sure you're just like me, man. This time of the year, like I've already gotten several messages today about, hey man, I love to go with you. I don't know much about it, or I would love to go. And it's for me, man, I love that. I'm like, dude, absolutely,
Yeah,
I'd much rather watch somebody kill their first turkey, than me kill, my second or third or whatever it is to tag out.
absolutely. I mean, and I told somebody the other day, I've killed plenty of turkeys at this point. You know, it's not about me pulling the trigger. I like to pull the trigger because I'm a killer. That's part of it. You know, and unfortunately, the trigger pull is a part of it because I love the birds so much and I appreciate them so much. And you know, that's just the end to the game. It just ends the game that you started. So there has to be an end if you're going to start it there. If there's a beginning, there's an end. So
That's right.
you know, that's unfortunate. But you know, back to topic, I I've killed so many at this point that I don't care if I get to kill anymore. I just want to be there. And like
Yes.
if it's my kids, if it's my nephew, you know, which he's kind of under my wing now and he's ate up with it and I'm taking him and trying to teach him the right way. And I try to set a goal every year to take a new person turkey hunting every year. And I've done that for probably 10 years now and
That's
I've been
awesome,
really
man.
successful with it. And I've introduced some people to it that it's stuck with and that they want to go with me every year. And I try to make it a priority to go with them at least one morning in spring if I can, and just kind of keep the fire stoked in them because it may not be burning as hot as it is in me, but they still
Yeah.
enjoy it. You know? And it's still kind of my priority to kind of keep a little ember in there. So you know, I do that, and I try to introduce people every year just so that they can get a little taste of it, and then they can decide for themselves if they want to pursue it. And some of them may pursue it in a couple mornings of spring, and some people may pursue it and go kill all 49 states. You know,
Yeah.
but it's my job as a gamekeeper or however you want to say it, um, to to allow people to do that, especially if it's people that you know may have not been raised turkey hunting or they don't have a dad that takes them. Like my nephew, his dad doesn't hunt. I'm the only one in our family that does, so
Yep.
I am his way, you know. So,
Yep.
and I'm going to teach him what I feel is the right way to do it. And you know, and like I told I did a podcast with Grounded the other day, and we were really around introducing kids and introducing new people to the outdoors. And I told them, you know, when I introduced my daughter, for her first turkey, we went in a blind, and she killed one, and she was 9, and I felt like the blind was the way to go because she was small and she couldn't really hold the gun up and stuff. But after she killed that one, and then she killed her second one in the blind, and after she killed her second one, I
Oh.
said, I said, no more blinds. I said, you're big enough, big enough now that you can hold a gun, you can handle a gun,
Yep.
and you're going to put your back on a tree and you're going to hunt them like I feel like you should hunt them. So the next, and I said, and then you can make your opinion however you want to do it from there, but you're going to at least experience it how I feel you should experience it. So the next year we went and had an incredible hunt. Birds were roosted behind us and they flew down and they walked right past us at about 15 yards, spitting and drumming to the decoy in front of us at like 25. And they did circles around the decoy for a few minutes. And then she ended up killing one of them. And first thing she did was look at me and she said, yeah, that was way cooler than in a blind. And I said, I told you it was, but I wanted you to formulate your own opinion of it, you know?
Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of a personal thing for me is just taking new people, you know, if they haven't ever been at all, or if they've only been a few times, and introducing them to what I love, you know, and then letting them go from there and helping them along the way, obviously.
Man, I tell you, taking a kid is something that, like you said, I mean, once you go through the killer phase, you go through like, I gotta kill, gotta kill. Once you satisfy that, I guess, bloodthirst for it, maybe that's a bad word for it, but once you satisfy that desire, it's almost like, and I can't say this for all the other different types of hunting, but as a turkey hunter, it's almost like you want to include other people into doing that. And taking my favorite thing to do is taking kids and taking new people to the sport. Like I just had a guy today, uh, an old friend from college I run into in the wildest the wildest happenstance. today, and he told me, he's like, I want to go turkey hunting with you because he sees me like selling calls for my business and stuff. He's like, I want to go with you, you know. And I was like, hey, yeah, absolutely, man. I would much rather him pull the trigger on a turkey because he's never hunted them before than me killing a bird all season. And I know that probably sounds weird, but I would, because that bird for him is going to mean a whole lot more than three turkeys for me in
Yep.
Virginia. It's going to mean a whole lot more. Um, and I've tried to really make an effort for Youth Day. My kids aren't old enough to hunt, so I try to go and take other people, especially like where I'm from. I try to go back and go with kids and take them. And dude, I've had the absolute blast going with kids, man, because they're so innocent and they just like everything to them is so cool. Like if a turkey gobbles, they're like, "Oh, that's cool." Or if you call to a turkey and they hear it, they hear the turkey respond, they're like, "Oh, that's so cool," you know. And I thoroughly enjoy that. So I know exactly what you mean, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is part of just maturing as a turkey hunter.
Yeah.
Um, that, like you said, you now don't get me wrong, I like to go kill them a
Oh
lot,
yeah. That's right. Don't get
but
that twisted.
yeah, but at the same time, like I just want to take people and I want to be able to be there and share it. And that's why I like filming so much, I think, is because I still get to go and even though the gun's not in my hand, the camera's in my hand and I'm still calling and I'm still getting to experience that whole entire hunt without pulling the trigger. And I get just as much excitement out of a buddy or my daughters or my nephew killing one as I do if I would have killed it, you know?
Yeah.
So and like I said, I think that that is part of just maturing as a turkey hunter. Like you just want to share it. You just want to share it with others. You want to share the birds with others, and you want other people to kind of feel what you feel or what you felt in the past. And I think that's just part of our responsibility as turkey hunters to pass it down
100%.
to people.
100%. And I always I know to me it always seems like it dawns on me like when I'm out of state. I guess especially like if I'm by myself and I've got a lot more, I guess, open ears than I am with other people. But ex like when I kill one, I always think the men that come before me, the forefathers of turkey hunting, how proud are they of me the way that I did it?
Yep.
Or are they looking, could you have done this better? Could you have done that better? And I always think about that because I think we do hold that torch for the next generation and say, and I think our generation is very, very pinnacle in the outdoor world right now.
Yep.
And to take a kid or a new person and say, this is what God gave us. Hold on to it. Don't let it go. And I really do feel that responsibility, as you're saying, to do that, um, especially for the young generation, man. And I always sit there, like, especially like I said, when I'm out of state and I kill one, I just sit there and I think, did I do it the right way? Did like are the ones sitting up there above me, are they looking down saying, yeah, yeah, that old boy did it the right way, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, I think that our generation does feel a little bit of responsibility because and I've heard Dave Owens say this many times that that was one of the main reasons that he started Pinhoti was because he felt like there was a void out there that was not being filled, meaning that basically everything that people were partaking, in from the outdoor channel or whatever avenue was out there was
Yeah.
all, turkeys in decoys in the field in front of a blind or whatever it may be. There just wasn't a whole lot of turkey hunting as he felt that it should be, and I feel the same way. And so now, it's a double edged sword in a sense, but now there is so much out there like Pinhoti and THP and you've got all these channels out there and not only are they just channels but it's education, it's knowledge. They're passing
Hmm.
down, like you said, they're passing it down and those guys toe the line, like especially Dave, they toe the line and they think, well, I want to do it the right way and I want to show it the right way. So people are seeing it the right way that, they think is the right way. And
Right.
I mean, they're under a microscope. Anything that you put out there, like we were talking about earlier, sound file, you put anything out there to the public, you're automatically under a microscope. You're
Yeah.
automatically going to be picked apart. Anything that you do that anybody doesn't agree with, they're going to let you know. So, you better be on your P's and Q's on that. But in that same sense and in that same realm, looking back to when I was a kid, and I've had this conversation many times with other friends, but there was not this unlimited amount of knowledge at your fingertips that you
No,
could pull up
absolutely.
anytime. There wasn't.
Yep.
And the learning curve is so shortened now for someone that really, really, really wants to get into it and really, really, really wants to do it, because of that simple factor. Because there was not YouTube back then that you could literally pull
No.
up sound files for real hens. You could pull up hunts from numerous number of really good turkey
Yeah.
hunters
Yep.
and watch them and learn from those hunts. I mean, you watch those hunts, and some people just watch them just to watch them.
Mhm.
Me, I'm watching them like
To listen.
I'm listening, I'm learning everything that I can, constantly learning, constantly listening. And there's a lot of times, especially like, channels that I follow and stuff, I'll watch their hunts the first time really, really in tune, watch them. And then I'll play them over and over as I'm working throughout the day or whatever, just listening to them. And I'll pick up on certain little things that they might have done or that they might have
Yep.
said or whatever. And that amount of stuff out there now, like back in the day, if you wanted to learn, like you had to put some serious effort in. You had to go to the
Si-
library and
Yeah.
take a book out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you had to put serious effort into getting the stuff. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier about the secret society, because not only was the knowledge not out there just prevalent at your fingertips, but there wasn't very many people back then that were willing to share anything either.
1000% true. So, Zach, let me ask you this, man. Do you think, like how we grew up, like what you're saying, we didn't have the access to the internet, we didn't have all these YouTube channels, we didn't have all this influence like we do now, right? We had to do a lot of reading, we had to do a lot of trial and error. Do
Yeah.
you think that it almost kind of hinders people in learning how to hunt these days?
Yes. That's short answer. Yes. But yes, I actually, this is one of the main things that I was discussing the other day, and I was really in depth thinking about this exact topic the other day because um, I think that, just speaking for me personally, okay, my dad wasn't a turkey hunter when I was growing up, but whenever I was old enough to walk, he had me in the woods, squirrel hunting,
Yep.
following him around deer hunting. And when I was little, obviously I was just there with him. I was just his shadow. I was watching where his feet hit the ground and I was stepping where his feet hit. And I didn't have a gun. He had the weapon, and it was just me in the woods with my dad. That time with my dad in the woods when I was bitty, I learned valuable, valuable lessons. Sitting
Yes.
still, being quiet, how to use terrain, woodsmanship, those kinds of things. Now, those kinds of things I think are what you lack in today's age of the hunter that's learning with the tools that are given to them, handed to them, basically. So I do think that with the amount of knowledge and influence and people wanting to be these influencers, I think that they kind of maybe rush into things and they get the cart before the horse in a sense. Um, and of course, a lot of it comes with experience over time and learning hard lessons. Back to me personally, when I was a kid, like I said, my dad didn't turkey hunt, but whenever I got to 9 years old, I said, Dad, I want a turkey hunt. And I was ate up with it. I watched Primos, I watched Night and Hale, I watched everything I could find at the VHS, rental store that I could go get. And that goes
Yep.
back to what I'm saying. You had to make a constant effort to get that stuff. You had to go get Turkey and Turkey Hunting magazine. you had to go to the library and rent books, and you
Yep.
had to go to the VHS store and rent the movies, or you had to go
Yep.
buy them when they came out in the spring. And that's just how it was. It wasn't right there at your fingertips at all hours of the day at all times. And I had already done all that. And I told my dad I wanted to go turkey hunting. And like I said, he wasn't a turkey hunter. He had no idea what he was doing, but he knew how to deer hunt. He knew woodsmanship. He knew those things. He got an old Lynch box call, and we went out and learned ourselves the hard way from the birds. We got taught
Yep.
so many lessons, and those are valuable lessons that are in my memory bank that I pull from even still today. Lessons like, we walked up on a gobbler one time because we thought he was way farther out this ridge than he was, but the foliage, it was late in the spring, the foliage made him sound like he was a lot farther, and he really wasn't. We walked right up on him and flushed him.
Yep.
And that was a valuable lesson that the bird taught us when I was young. And I called my first turkey in when I was 9 years old with an old Lynch box call. My dad shot it, and from then on, my life was ever changed. And I was ate up with it, and I've been turkey hunting ever since.
Yep.
And I'm self-taught, learned all that the hard way. Tried to get as much knowledge as I could from reading or watching, those old VHS tapes. But yeah, like you said, I think that the hunters today that are getting into turkey hunting by watching these influencers on social media or whatever, they and it's not really, it may not be their fault, but
No.
they
Yep.
they lack that. They lack that stuff because they just didn't have that. So, but yeah, I think that hurts because I think woodsmanship and just knowing turkeys in general kills way more turkeys than calling does. So,
1000%. Yeah. Yeah, man. I 1000% agree with you. There was a lot of things that I learned just squirrel hunting. I mean, just understanding silhouetting yourself, understanding the profile of your image, in the woods, and just little teeny tiny things of just growing up and doing those small things. They all attribute back to turkey hunting and understanding every little incremental thing that you can do to help yourself. And man, I've been with guys, it'll be, two, three, four of us turkey hunting, and I'll tell them, I say, hey, uh this bird's doing this, we need to do this, and it'll end up working out, and they look at me like I'm some, like, mad scientist or something. And they're like, man, how did you know that? And I tell them, I say, because I've played that game before and I've lost. I know
exactly.
exactly. And it's not that I'm some master, turkey hunter or anything. It's just I've learned the hard way so many times. Dude, there's a group of turkeys that I guess they're on their great 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 grandchildren right now, that them jokers have whipped me for years, and I've never got a chance to hunt them again. And the sad truth about it, I probably will never get to hunt them again because we don't have any hunting rights to that place anymore. But those turkeys taught me how to be a turkey hunter, man. Every way possible, they have whipped me, man. I mean, seeing me flying down, seeing me in the tree, I mean, you just name it. And you get to a point when you're a 13, 14-year-old kid, you're like, I don't even know if I like this, you know. But but I know uh it's so funny. I looked at a buddy of mine, and I can't remember where we were at, but uh I looked at him and I said, I know exactly what we need to do. And from that point forward, he always jokes, like whenever we sat down on one, always goes, I know you know exactly what to do. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's just part of the game. But I always tell him, I say, I know that what I have done in the past did not work. So we
Yeah,
got to try this.
yeah,
And a lot of the times it does work, what we've done. And um woodsmanship, man, like you keyed on, woodsmanship, I believe. Dude, I know guys that are not the best callers, and they'll tell you, they're like, man, I don't even practice calling, like I got pots and this and that, and they sound good, but they're just like, I just know how to kill them. and they're turkey killers. And I think that, and in this day and age, I think with the call technology that we have, the shot shell technology, a guy can go out there, man or woman, can go out there with watching YouTube, whatever, knowing the basics. They can go out there with, I mean, you take a pot call from, a top tier company, in the industry,
Yep.
you're going to sound like and you know what a turkey sounds like, and you never even step foot in the woods. I mean, I think that makes a huge difference, versus me sitting there tracking turkeys like in the winter. I used to squirrel hunt in the winter, and like when it would snow would come down, I would go and I knew where turkeys roosted at. There was like a couple of different pieces of timber in there they would roost in. They had pines in it, and I would just go and follow them. Like I just go and just follow 'em and listen to them. But I'd squirrel hunt at the same time. So if I seen a squirrel, I'd shoot them. But listening to those turkeys, they don't have to do that now. They can flip on YouTube, they can flip on Chris Walls or whoever that's got a long sound. I mean, an hour of turkey sounds.
Yep.
They don't have to do that. So I mean, and they can be better than I was. That took me 5, 6, 7, 8 years to get to that point. They can do that in an hour, and they can run a call, and it is different. But when it comes down to that critical situation like you're talking about, and you're like, should we set here or should we set there? Somebody like me or you is going to go, we need to be over there. It's a
Yep.
harder walk, but that's where we need to be because we've already played this game and it don't work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you touched on a lot of good stuff there. I think that one, I think that not only are information that's out there at the fingertips is a whole lot more, but I also think that technology, whether it be, the call advancements, the shells out there with TSS, OnX, huge thing. Um,
Huge.
those things definitely, without a doubt, make it easier to kill a turkey now. There's no
1000%.
denying it. Um, that and their learning curve is so much shorter
Hmm.
than mine was. Like I said,
Yep.
I called my first turkey in when I was 9 with my dad, and I hunted every spring with my dad until I was old enough to hunt on my own at probably 13 or 14. And then I started hunting on my own, and I didn't kill my first turkey until I was 16. So there's my learning curve right there, 9 to 16. That's a pretty big
That's a
gap.
big gap. That's a big
Yeah.
gap.
So that gap now can be shortened to 1 or 2 springs, in my opinion, before you kill
Yep.
a turkey, because of the technology that we have now, and because of the amount of information that you can learn how to go out there and kill a turkey. Now, that being said, I don't think that going out and killing a turkey equates to you being a turkey killer or even a turkey hunter.
Yep.
Um, a lot of people can go out and kill a turkey, but killing a turkey on the regular, now that's a different thing. Like
Different
going,
thing.
and that comes down to, like you were just saying, you throw a guy in a situation, and one guy that's a noob might not know what to do. And then a guy that's been doing it for 10 years or more, he can pull it right out and be like, yeah, I've played this game with this Joker before. Like, I know
Yeah.
how this ends, or I know what
Yeah.
he wants to do. And that's where instincts come in. And
Hmm.
and instincts are built on from experience. So, pay your dues before you, say that you're in the club kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like that goes back to
Absolutely.
society. Like, don't come at me year 2 and tell me you're in the club because you haven't paid your dues yet, old bud. That's just how it is.
It
But
is, man, 100%.
yeah. So, but yeah, I do think that, I mean, and like I said about YouTube and stuff, and I have a YouTube channel, so I feel like I can say this, but I think that I think it is a double-edged sword in a sense that we're teaching a lot of people a lot of really good information and a lot of good lessons, but we're also maybe putting more people in the woods, or maybe showing people that, public land is accessible, or you can travel and turkey hunt if you want to. It's not that hard, the different things like that. So maybe we are putting more people in the woods. I don't know. I mean, I've had conversations with lots of people. Where are you at? Tennessee?
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay. I couldn't remember. Well, I talked to a buddy of mine in Tennessee yesterday, and he was like, Zach, we just don't have the amount of birds we used to. And
Yeah.
they're one of those states that used to be a four bird limit, and now they're two bird limit.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that, and I said, honestly, I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. I think we're going to see a lot more bag limits going down. I think you're going to see a whole lot more states going to a draw system. I think I think a lot of stuff like that, and I think it's due to just the amount of popularity that turkey hunting has generated in the last probably 5 year span. And,
Yep.
and you can probably attribute a lot of that to YouTube, and that's the
Yep.
facts. But and it is what it is. And like I said, some of it's really, really good. And that is really the only really bad thing to it. So
100%, man. I met a guy in South Florida. We just met. We was down there on the same piece of public ground. And he asked me, he started, talking to me. He's like, what calls you run, and everything. And we were all, like camping out and everything. And so I showed him. I was like, yeah, I was like, these are the calls I run. He's like, yeah, where'd you get them? And I told him, I said, well, I built these calls, and we've been buddies ever since. Like he buys calls from me every year.
yeah.
And he took a pot call. It's a true story. He took a pot call. He ran it, dude. I'm telling you, sounded freaking awesome. And and I said, man, I was like, I said, how long you been hunting down here? And he said, man, he said, this is my first year. And I was like, oh, I said, okay. And he said, I've never killed a turkey before. I was like, what? He said, yeah. But he had a pot call, and I'm not gonna name who made it. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
nobody, out there. But he had a pot call. It was a premium pot call maker. He sounded phenomenal. And he told me, he said, I watch YouTube. He said, and they taught me how to do, and I told him, I said, that works. But he told me, he said, I've had turkeys hang up on me. And I went, yeah. He said, they get to 70 yards. He said, I can't do nothing with them. And so I started telling him, I said, you're calling too much, and I started kind of, and he wasn't from Florida. He was from another state. But I told him, I said, I kind of started kind of coaching him a little bit. He texted me 2 weeks later in the state. He traveled out of state to another place where he was from. He texted me and he had a turkey, dead. And he said, I did exactly what you told me. He said, it worked. Now, you take that guy 15, 20 years ago, he ain't killing no turkeys,
Nope.
but he did exactly what he had seen online and it worked. But when it come down to somebody like me or you is going to sit there and be like, all right, it's time to shut up. It's time to shut it down, and let that bird work. And it was funny. He called me and he said, man, he said, how did you know that? I said, because, but I said, I got 20 plus years in this game. I said, I've lost more than I've ever won, and congratulated him,
Yeah.
man, he told me, so I'm going to go to this state and all this stuff. And I said, man, good, and wished him the best. But I do think that we are seeing an influx of hunters because of the social media realm. They are, I mean, it's so weird because it's a double-edged sword, man, because we do want more hunters, but we don't want hunters where we're at, right? And
Yeah.
especially out of state, right? I mean, you go out of state,
Yeah.
you pay all that money, drive all that time or fly all that time. You don't want to be sitting in the woods with some guy right beside you, 100 yards from you, but that's just the reality of it. And the land is shrinking. Virginia this year, we lost 4,300 farms this year. Private
Mm.
land. We lost 4,300 farms this year, or in 2023. It is shrinking, so that pushes people more towards public ground. Um, and then you kind of put in the social media, the YouTube, man. It's a real problem for turkey, man. It's a real problem.
It is, and we got to try to stay ahead of it and do our part, and,
Yeah.
and make sure that they don't go the same direction as a quail did, and you know we just got to do like you said. I mean, land is shrinking. I mean, their
Yeah.
habitat is shrinking, and places are losing private and public ground. We lost a big WMA that's literally right here close to me, like 2 years ago, several thousand acres that has been a WMA managed by our uh, Department of Natural Resources my whole life. And I'm 35. It's been a WMA as long as I've been
Yeah.
alive, and lost it. It's a timber company land that was leased by the government, and made a WMA, and they didn't up their lease, so it just went back to timber company land. And um so yeah, I mean it's sad. We're losing ground to hunt on, and we're gaining more hunters. And you know, you hear all this about a couple years ago, the big thing that you heard was recruitment for hunters. And to me it seems like, man, we were booming with hunters, especially turkey hunters. I mean, it seemed like, I think that it was kind of a mix of a couple things. I think that the COVID year, and then just the big boom of social media and the YouTube and stuff all at once kind of really played into all that. But
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is, and like I said, we've got to individually do our part, but we've got to do our part as organizations like Turkeys for Tomorrow and NWTF and stuff to make sure that we do preserve them. Because, you know, like I told my buddies the other day, I said, you know, my prime is now or past. You know, probably the boom of the turkey in my generation was back in the 90s. And,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
it's not really about uh, having them for me anymore. It's about having them for my kids and my grandkids and my nephew to enjoy in the
Yes.
future. I want to make sure that there's enough huntable turkeys, you know, here that they can enjoy it like I enjoyed it as, you know, a kid and into my adulthood.
Let me ask you, Zach. When you were growing up, we're roughly the same age. I'm 33, about to turn 34. You're 35, so we grew up roughly the same time.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I there I don't even remember any kids, and it may be different where you're at, but I don't even remember kids going turkey hunting. I don't remember it at all.
No.
And my dad, he had some buddies that are still my heroes. Like I still talk to them. Like I mean, they're on like the upper echelon for me, man. And every time I kill a turkey, I'll send them pictures and stuff and call them and stuff. But I had those guys that grew up in the late 70s and 80s that grew up hunting turkeys. Um, but as far as my generation, dude, I didn't even know turkey hunters. Like I'd skip school a little bit, and I go turkey hunting in the mornings, and like we kill a turkey, and I come to school, and people are like, "You went turkey hunting?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I lived out in the country. I mean, I wasn't like in no city or nothing, you know. And I'm like, "Man, this is." I thought it was crazy at the time, and like, I guess now I kind of wish it was kind of like that a little bit. Like, you know, you go out, you get on a piece of public ground, and it's 47 people at the parking spot. But was it like that for you?
100%. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
I talk to a lot of people every day about this. When I was a kid, I'm just like you. Like there wasn't other kids that turkey hunted. Um, I really didn't even know very many adults that turkey hunted, and
yeah, yep.
I knew a handful of people um, that did turkey hunt, and were pretty serious about it. And like I said, they were hush hush. I mean, they wouldn't even talk
Oh
about it,
yeah,
not even tell you
yeah.
where they saw a track, nothing. So it was really hard to have conversations like we're having right now with people, because they wouldn't talk about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're just, even now, I mean, I feel like we have a pretty decent amount of turkey hunters, but even now I still feel like there aren't a whole lot of really serious, like diehard turkey hunters around here, which is good.
Yeah.
But like, I think that that's one of the reasons that I love going to the South so much, because you get down there in like Alabama and Georgia, and dude,
Yeah.
there are some serious,
Hardcore. Yeah.
serious, and it's really cool because like the South just has this aura about it, I guess. Just like it's kind of in my mind, like I grew up watching Primos and stuff, and so in my mind was like that's where turkey hunting's meant to be done. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where it
Yes.
was born, kind
Yeah.
of thing. And so I always dreamed of going down there, and I've killed in all those states now pretty much. But um, I go down there and hunt with guys from Mississippi, or I go down there and hunt with guys like I went down and hunted with Clay Townsend in Georgia, and we ended up killing a really good turkey. And that we went to a diner, and literally everybody in the whole diner had camo on. We
It's
go and
crazy.
we go in the parking lot, and everybody's just talking about their morning, and I'm just like, dude, this is nuts, because like we don't have it here at
We don't
all.
have it. Yeah.
And it's just it's crazy, and that comes down to too. I think that you hear about turkeys in the South being so hard to kill. I think they are in a sense, but I think that a
It's a
lot of that,
pressure.
I think and not only pressure, but it's good pressure from good hunters. You know what I mean? So they're
Yep.
getting hunted by more good hunters than probably any part of the country, I would say,
Yes.
like per capita. So I think that
Yes.
that probably goes into it a little bit. They are getting a lot of pressure from novices too, which just kind of boogers turkeys up. And killers are going to kill. People are going to go in there and still kill their turkeys, but they're getting hunted by a lot more good hunters down there too.
Dude, yeah, that's a really great way of putting that because first time I went to Mississippi, I went down there. I'm like you. I grew up on the Primos VHS tapes,
Yeah.
and to me that's what I thought. I thought Deep South, that's what, turkey hunting's all about. And end up going down there. I told my wife, I was like, that's where turkey hunting's meant to be. I said, I'm gonna go down there, and I said, I'm gonna kill one. Went down there second day, I ended up killing one, which was it was totally not
Yeah.
what you would expect for a turkey hunt. It was just absolute rainstorm, ended up killing this bird and everything. But when you pull out of them places on public ground, dude, it is a truck at every pull off. And I told people, I said, when you go to Mississippi, there's more hunters than trees down there. And they all got on bottom land, and them son of a guns will hunt. And when it come down time to like roost, them trucks, most of the vehicles like where I was at, they never left. They never left. So they were in there from daylight to dark
Yeah.
every single day. And they was hunting them just like I was. And I was just sitting there and I was like, if I can kill one in here, I know I'm the real deal because these guys right here mean they love it like I do. They mean what they're doing. And you're right, dude. It's a different world, and we don't have that like you're talking about where you're at, where I'm at. We just don't. We have a lot of hunters in general,
Yeah.
but when you're talking about turkey hunters, we don't. We just don't have it like that. But now there's people. Don't get it twisted. There are people on public ground, and they're gonna come in there and they're gonna hunt too. But it ain't like it. It ain't like it is down there in Alabama, Mississippi.
No, I hunted a place in South Carolina, and this
That's
is
another one. Yeah.
this is not an exaggeration. First afternoon, well, first morning, we were at the gate at like 2:30 in the morning, and there was just trucks just buzzing. I mean, already just buzzing, and we were lucky enough to get the gate we wanted. We didn't kill a turkey that morning, and my buddy that I was hunting with had to go coach a baseball game that afternoon. So he said, let's take a loop around this and just kind of look at what's going on. Dude, there was 57 trucks there. There was one at every gate. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
There was one or two at every gate, and it was like that the whole time. And the second day we hunted in there, it was the same amount of trucks and stuff. And then the third day I went and killed on a refuge down in a swamp. and we got fortunate. We got to the gate and there was trucks just buzzing by us the whole time. And we waited there until we could. And then we went in and killed that turkey. But it's different, man. Mississippi, same way. I mean, I had the same kind of experience that you did. I killed on the first day in Mississippi, fortunately, but I hunted for a couple more days with some buddies down there.
Yeah.
And it's pressure. I mean, it's pressure
Yeah.
all over it. And it's like you said, I mean, there's don't get it twisted, there's good hunters everywhere, but in the South, there's like I said, I think there's more good hunters per capita that are turkey hunters.
I
Like
do. Yep.
a turkey hunter moves through the woods different than a deer hunter does.
1000%. Yep.
It's a fact. And so you've got more of those types of guys in the woods down there than you do, as you go north.
Yes. And that's a really good point, because I've told people for a long, long time. I said you can take 100-acre block of timber. You can drop 10 turkey hunters on it. They'll never screw a turkey up.
Yep.
They'll come in, they'll get on that bird. If he ain't working, they're backing out. They're gonna move and go, do something else. You could take one guy that is not a turkey hunter, he's gonna screw up 100 acres.
Oh
That
yeah.
one guy's gonna do that. And I've seen it happen.
Yep.
And and I've had conversations with guys on public ground in the South, in the North, and out West. And when you get down south, the guys like me and you, that's the average guy down there. They're gonna
Yep.
hunt them just like we're gonna hunt them, and they're gonna creep in on them, and they're gonna be hardcore about it. And you can hunt the same block of woods with a lot more hunters, but man, it makes it tough when you got that many killers in there, though, son. It makes it hard on you.
It does. And that's when it sets the men from the boys there, it
It
gets
does.
tough. But like you said, I've seen that too, where you've got a guy that isn't a turkey hunter and he can go in and screw a place up pretty quick. Like I had a
Quick.
farm that I've hunted for 15 years or more now, and it was across the holler from this other farm. And uh these guys didn't really know how to turkey hunt, and they would come in from out of state every year, and they would come in for about a week at a time or whatever, and they would hunt
Yeah.
that. And I'd kind of keep in touch with them throughout the week and say like, hey, are you hearing anything? No, we haven't heard a single turkey in here. And I knew there was 10 or 15,
Yeah.
we haven't heard a single turkey the whole week. Well, I'd go up there that weekend and they'd still be there. And I'd have already climbed to the top of the mountain. I'd be standing up there for 20 minutes in the dark. Well, they'd crank their four-wheeler up and they'd go right up through the middle of their holler to the ridge right at goblin time. And it's no wonder they didn't hear a turkey in there. Well,
Yep.
if I would give, and I wouldn't hear very many turkeys either when they were in for that week, but
Yep.
give it 3 or 4 days after they left and go in there, the place would just be lit up with turkeys.
Turkey firing up. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and that goes back to people just don't know how to move through the woods, and like you said, one person that just really doesn't know will go in and screw a whole block up for a while.
It'll screw it all up, man. And yeah, it's unfortunate when you meet that guy, like you were saying earlier, you can almost smell it on him. Like you can look at that guy and you can start talking to him a little bit, and you're like, he's gonna be a real problem for me. Like, you know, and I've talked to guys before, and I had a guy, I was in Mississippi one day, drove in, I got there at 1 o'clock in the morning. I left work, drove down there, and I sleep in a cot. I got a little cot in the back of my truck. That's what I sleep in. And I got out. I was drinking coffee next morning. I was in my boxer. It's 65 degrees in Mississippi. This guy this guy walks up to me. I seen the headlights coming down the dirt road, and he comes up to me and he said, "Are you hunting here?" And I said, "Yeah, I plan on it." And he's like, "Well," he said, "Man, I got a bird down here roosted, you know." And I said, well." I said, "Was you here yesterday?" He said, "Yeah." And I kind of felt like, I said, "Man, he didn't kind of put the work in." And I told him, I said, "Well," I said, "Tell you what," I said, "you have him today." I said, "But now tomorrow," I said, "I'm going in there, full force." But we try to be I try to be cordial with people, you know,
Oh,
and I could tell that guy, I mean, his face, I mean, he was so tired, I could tell. And I said, dude, I said, you go at him, you know. And the amount of effort that is put in to chase these birds, to do it on that scale
yeah,
down there. And I told all my buddies, I said, if I kill one in Mississippi, I said, I can hang my hat on that. I said, because them guys down there, they chase them like no other, man. And when I killed mine, I was so proud. I was like, dude, that's like, you know, I said, man, I say every turkey hunter in the world, because the Mississippi at that time was still opening up. Like they were right after South Florida. So
yeah.
they was still opening up. So I was so proud to do that, man. But you're right, man. It, there's a lot of really good turkey hunters out there.
Well, and I think this. I think every turkey in every state can be hard to kill. There's no,
Absolutely.
well, this turkey
Absolutely.
here is easier than this turkey, or these turkeys in Alabama are harder than anywhere else. It's not like that. Any
Yep.
turkey, any given day, you can kill him. It's just a matter of if it's his time or not.
Yep.
That being said, I do think turkeys in the South have a tough reputation. And I think that it is something to be proud of if you go down there, especially on public land, and you kill a turkey down there. Because, like
Yes.
we've said, there's a lot of good turkey hunters down there. Those turkeys are pressured very, very hard, especially on public land. It is a big deal. And then, so in saying that, I'll say this. I think that you're from Virginia, I'm from Virginia or West Virginia. Um, I think if you can kill a turkey here, you can kill a turkey just about anywhere. Because I'm here to
Yes.
tell you, I know guys, and I even, even talking with Matt last year, we were talking. We were in some nasty place. We went
Rough
down a
territory.
nasty holler, and he looked right at me and he said, "I know a lot of people that wouldn't hunt this stuff, or that
It
couldn't hunt this stuff," and that's a fact. And that's not
is.
anything, but that's a fact. There's a lot of people that might grow up in terrain that's not like what we hunt, and you put them in
Yes.
there and they are a lost ball in the high weeds, man. They don't
Yep.
know how to deal with that terrain. And it's
Yep.
it's a different ball game. Different ball game going to the south and hunting in a swamp, different ball game coming here and hunting in the mountains. It's just different. And
1000%. Yep.
and I just believe that, there are some really, really tough turkeys here, and it's tough with the terrain, and knowing how to maneuver with the terrain and knowing how to use it to your advantage. I think that that gives people like us a little bit of an edge when we go these places that are flatter, maybe Mississippi, Alabama,
Absolutely.
us,
Yep.
because we know how to use terrain, and we know how to use features in the terrain, whether it be trees or a bend in the road or whatever, because we've used terrain our whole life.
So that it's funny that the next thing that I had on the agenda was talking about hunting in the mountains, that you brought that up. Um, I've had so many people tell me, man, hunting in the highlands, hunting elevation, that's hard to kill turkeys. For me, I love to kill turkeys in the high, dude. That's where I thrive at, man.
Yep.
And when you go down to South Florida and you hunt them swamps, it's a totally different ball game. But now you
Yep.
bring them guys from down there in South Florida, Central Florida, you bring them up here, up in the mountains, and you start talking about going from 1,800 foot to 2,200 foot, you know, in a quarter mile. They go, "Oh my God, dude, this is some steep stuff." And for us, we're just like, "Oh yeah, this is normal," run right up it. And when you learn how to kill turkeys in the mountains, dude, there ain't nothing like it, son. I mean,
Mm.
when you can go in there and you can yelp a turkey off a limb, you get above him, yelp him off a limb, he pitches down, you shoot him, and you're like, dude, I hiked up here just for you, And that is a very, very special feeling. And I've carried that feeling, and I'm sure you have too, all across the United States, man.
Yep.
You get up in them highlands and you get out west, you get up 10,000 feet elevation. That's a different ball game almost. But when you drop down and you get 57 feet below sea level, that's a different ball game too.
Yeah.
But it it really is a I think for us, I think it's an advantage. I really do. I think it's an advantage. Your lungs are just used to climbing that terrain. I think your legs and body, they're used to that wear and tear. And I wouldn't have it no other way than the mountains, man.
No, give me the mountains all day, every day. I
Yeah.
killed turkey that I killed in North Carolina. I killed it at 3,200 feet, and it was a big mountain range. Killed him up there. That was awesome. But like you say, I mean, it's just different terrains, man. I know in South Carolina, the place I hunted, it was flat as a pancake. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just flat, and I struggled the first day down there to really. It was really tough for me to pinpoint goblin. Like a turkey would gobble, and I'd be like,
Yes.
I have no
Yep.
clue where he's at. He's that
Yep.
direction somewhere. I have no clue. And in the
Somewhere.
mountain,
Yep.
you're on a point. If you're on a ridge top and you're looking at a point and a turkey gobbles, you can be like, he's right on that point right there. I
Right
can
there.
I can
Yep.
almost see him. You know what I mean? Like I can
Yep.
almost see him over there. But in those flatlands, man, it's a little tougher. I feel like to really pinpoint goblin and things like that. But like you said, I think that people and I've hunted with some people like that are used to hunting that kind of terrain, and you bring them here and they struggle. And it's just the
I
same as
struggle.
us. We struggle when we go to the south some,
Absolutely. Yep.
but I think it definitely is an advantage for us in a sense that we're used to dealing with terrain and mountains and things like that.
So hunting in the mountains, it's funny, man, because I train really all year, but like before turkey season, I go super hardcore in the weight room, get my cardio up. I went to New Mexico last year, and dude, I'm telling you, I got up 10,000 feet, 11,000 feet elevation. I didn't have lungs, man. I mean, like I was on this bird and I felt like my chest was about to cave in, and I was like, "What is going on?" I thought I was having a heart attack there at first,
Uh,
and I realized I was like, "Oh, the elevation is starting to get to me," and it's so funny because like in the mountains, like I love being in the mountains, but when I got in that kind of terrain, I was like, "Oh man," I was like, "It's a different ball game up here."
yeah, that's a different kind of mountain than we're used to.
Yeah, yeah, but it was it was very humbling because like I always, if there's a bird, no matter where I'm at, I'm like, okay, well I can get around him, I can get above him. I know how to kill him. But out there I was like, holy cow, man. I was like, that's a different I moved 125 yards and I was on my knees, like gasping. And I told my wife before I left, I said, the way that I hunt out of state, I said, I've got about probably 15 years left in me. And I said, I'm not going to be able to do that anymore, the way that we hunt. And I got out there and I was on my knees. And the first thought in my head was, I don't know if I have 15 minutes left.
Yeah.
But man, let's beat a dead horse while it's down. I've got a big question for you here. The turkey decline.
Okay.
What do you think is causing that?
Um, I think it is a number of things that are working against the turkey. I don't think it can be
Yep.
attributed to one thing and you just say this is it. That's happening. Um, I think that the probably the biggest thing, and people are going to hate this answer, but I think we're overhunting them. And I think you can attribute some of it to predators. I do. I think
Yep.
we've had predator boom here in a lot of other states, especially in the western states. I've got buddies in Kansas and Nebraska, and they say, "Man, the predators out here are unbelievable, and we don't have turkeys anymore."
Yeah.
And and I think it's going to be a case by case basis. I don't think you can say, this is attributable to the decline on for the whole country because I think it may be loss of land, it may be um, influx of out of state hunters. I think Tennessee experienced a lot of that. If you look at their numbers, They had a huge influx of out of state hunters. They had a huge kill one year, which really hurt them. I think that
Especially during the pandemic.
yes, I think the pandemic year and then the year after they had a huge spike in non-residents and they had a huge spike in Jake kill.
Yep.
And I think that those two factors alone were probably enough for them to reassess their bag limits and do some things to help prevent it. But I don't think that you can attribute one single thing. I do think that you can say it's predators, you can say it's loss of land, but I do think that uh you have to address the elephant in the room and say that we are hunting them hard, like, and killing a lot uh nationwide. I think that we probably have more guys now traveling and turkey hunting than we probably ever have, if you want to be honest. I think that the cool factor that everybody looks at the US Super Slam and stuff is just and I kind of thought, honestly, since we're talking about it, I kind of thought, when we saw this rise and we saw this boom in numbers and we saw this boom in numbers of hunters, I mean, and numbers of hunters traveling, I kind of thought, okay, maybe it's a fad thing. Maybe it's because of COVID and everybody just has the time, and
Yep.
maybe it's a cool thing now to do that. Everybody wants to travel the country and kill turkeys, and maybe we'll kind of see it peak and come back down, but we're still going on the upward, I think.
We're still going to, so that's a really good point because it's funny. You talk to some guys, like you said, Kansas, you go to those places, predators are just, they're overrun, right? But then you go to some places and you go, well, let's go to, let's say, Central to South Florida. They got more predators than anybody. Their turkeys are stabilized,
Yeah.
and that was for me. That's why I wanted to ask you that question. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
Yeah.
I wanted to get another person's perspective on it.
Yeah.
That was a super awesome answer, man. Because if you go across the country from East Coast to West Coast, North to South, right? Minnesota to South Texas, everybody's factors are different. Some people are dealing with wildfires, some people are dealing with floods, some people are dealing with predators, other people are dealing with population, human population expanding. And the biggest thing to me is that I've seen is weather. Like
Yeah.
where I've seen droughts, I've seen expansion of turkeys. I've seen a big boom of turkeys.
Yeah.
Like in Virginia, when we had um last couple of years, we've had a really good crop of turkeys. Now, we didn't have the rain that we normally have.
Yeah.
So, do you say, is it the rain? Well, then let's just say you go to Washington. Well, Washington has a bunch of rain. Turkeys are doing good. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that kind of eliminates that factor. Okay, well, let's go to say Oklahoma. Oklahoma's struggling. Okay, they've been in a drought for the last 2 years. Okay, well, I don't know, and so you go through these things and it's like, well, maybe it's the predators. So I think you said it really well, man. There's a lot of different factors, but at the end of the day, I think you do have an expansion of I think what you said is spot on. I think COVID definitely sped the process up.
Yeah.
I think you have a wide array of people that said, I've got an excess of time. I kind of like turkey hunting, but let me I'm gonna go down to such and such state and go to this other state because I can do it. I'm all for it. And then they said, "Oh man, this is awesome." And I think that is kind of bred. And now we're in what, year 4 of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I think it.
Yeah.
I think it's stuck with a lot more people than I originally thought it would. Because
Yes.
originally I kind of thought, okay, you know, and I hate to keep bringing up Dave because, but Dave, and I'm friends with Dave, and I'm friends with all those guys on Pinhoti, but, um, you know, everybody wants to be Dave. Everybody wants to smoke a cigar after they kill a turkey, and they want to get their little clip for Instagram and stuff. And I hate to say it that way because it kind of sounds condescending, but I really don't mean it that way at all. I, I thought originally that people might be doing this because it was the cool thing to do. And it may just kind of be like a fad
Yeah.
thing and then kind of go back out. But like I said, I think it's stuck with a lot more people when they experienced it for real. Maybe they were like you said, that this is really cool, honestly, So and so I
Yes.
think it did boom our turkey hunters. And like I said earlier when we were talking, I think you're gonna see more states dropping bag limits. I think you're gonna see more draw states as a result of this. And it's one of those things that's kind of like the other things that we talked about, double-edged sword. It's a good and a bad thing. It's one of those things where, hey, honestly, and I love turkey hunting as much as anybody on the planet. But if it came down to it, and our state said, "Hey, look, for us to have huntable population in the future, we have got to not hunt them this year," I
Yeah.
would be like, "Okay, that's just how it is." And so, if states have to do things to maintain their population of turkeys that they have or grow their population of turkeys that they have, we as conservationists and as lovers of the wild turkey have to be okay with that. And
Yeah.
and it may suck for a little while, but it may come back up in the future. But I think that, just like the Northeast, for instance, like Maine and all those states up there, I think those states are going to become increasingly harder as we go because you can hunt all that ground up there that's not posted. And I think people are probably going to get tired of some of that. You're seeing, even from 3 years ago when I went to now, you're already seeing more posted land up there, and it's getting harder and harder to get access to stuff because people are just getting tired of the influx of non-residents up there.
Yeah.
Those are all factors, and it all comes down to, we have to do what we have to do to make sure that we have turkeys to hunt in the future. That's the main
Yes.
thing. Not just for me and not just for you, but for our kids and for our grandkids to come after us. That to me, as turkey hunters, should be our main priority. Not
Yeah.
going and killing 15 a year, and that's all well and good and cool, and I love doing that, but we have to make sure that we're doing our part, whether that be predator control or land management or whatever it is we can do. I mean, you might not have this huge scale to do things on, but do what you can do, whether it be on 5 acres or on 5,000 acres.
Yeah.
Do what you can do. Trap as many coons as you can. There's things that you can do, but we all have to do our part because it all adds up in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. And I think for me, I think it's a really it's a really weird thing because like I'm a predator hunter. So coyote, foxes, coons, all that good stuff. We have predator comp, and I can't speak for everywhere. I can only speak for where I live at, but we have predator competitions from starting in December into November, all the way through 1st of March. And I mean, I'm talking about stacking them up. I'm talking about 50, 60 coyotes coming in. And then you have the Eastern competition up here in I can't remember the name of it. Jason, what's his name, puts it on. They'll bring in it'll be over 1,000 coyotes killed, you know, in that area. And you're just like, I mean, how much predation is going on if they're killing that much? So then you start thinking about, okay, well, what about land management? Like for us, I know in the big woods, I say big woods, I'm talking about national forest. You get a national forest, big, open, old growth timber, and you don't see the turkeys up there like you did 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Is that playing a part in it? We in Virginia, we don't burn like they do down south, like I'm sure like you go to Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, they burn, a bunch. Is that causing a part of it? Well, then you go to, say Colorado, they ain't burning out in Colorado, not like we do in the South. And it's like there's so many factors that are kind of catered into that idea of that, like we have to save the turkeys. And I think you said it best, man. I think we are the number one factor. I think you've got guys that are, COVID, I think kind of sped it up, but I think eventually it was going to get there through YouTube, Instagram, all this stuff. But they go, I can travel to that state, that state, and that state in a 4-day span, and I kill
Yep.
turkey in all of them,
Yep.
and the license is, compared to my home state, it's a whole lot cheaper. And I think that took a toll on them. But I think, like what you said, is spot on the money. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to draw states. I think it's going to come down to big municipalities, and they're going to have to. I don't want to see it come down to that, man, because it's going to be hard for us. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if we want our kids to have that tradition, to be able to have that turkey hunting experience, something has to change.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people say like you hate to lose opportunity, but
Yeah.
at the same time you've got to do things that are going to be, beneficial to the turkey. And like you said, like we don't burn up here. I wish we would do more of it. It's just is not a thing here that
Yeah.
much. There's very, very little burning, if any, done here.
Yeah.
Um, but like it's a big thing in the South, and I know that that's a point of contention as well because you get people that argue that the timing of the burning is wrong timing or it's killing turkey
Oh
nests.
yeah.
You're never going to make everybody happy. You're just not.
No, you're just
And
not.
and I think that you're just going to have to do what you can. And another thing too, like I heard George Mayfield last week on a podcast saying that the turkeys would do just fine without us, like they would.
Yeah,
And I
that's a
mean,
good point.
honestly, I mean they would do just fine. They are wild. They're the last true wild thing that we have. Like they are a wild turkey. It's in their name. So and they're going to make it, and God has a way of balancing stuff out. Like you talked, like the last 2 years, we've had really good hatches here. The 2 years before that, we didn't have good hatches here
No,
because it was rain followed by a week of snow,
cold weather.
cold,
Yep,
and that's a Polk's death sentence basically, and it was
it
right at
is.
hatch time. So you
Yep.
know, obviously those years weren't good hatches, but then we had boom hatches the following 2 years, and it's just kind of God's way of just evening the flow out of things. But if we're not careful, we will just wipe them out. We'll hunt them out.
I 100%. And I've heard the shot shell technology argument. We got TSS now. You can kill a turkey out there 70, 80, 90 yards. I've heard the like we talked about earlier, the call. We have some of the best, greatest calls you can ever buy right at your disposal. Um, and then land access. You can go and you can hunt, like depending on where you're at, like what you were saying earlier with the timber company, you can go and hunt thousands of acres. You put all that in conjunction, dude, and choke tubes is another big one. Like you look back in the 80s, I was talking to a guy, I'm not gonna say his name, but this guy is like, he's way up in the industry, and I was talking to him, and he's from down south and deep south, and he told me, he was like, man, it's like when we used to hunt turkeys back in the 80s, he's like people looked at us like we were crazy. He
Yeah,
said it was turkeys gobbling everywhere. But he said now, he said you can take and this guy's an older guy, and we sat and we ate lunch one day, and he said, man, down there at the convention, and he said you can take he told me, he said you can take a young blood, that's what he called him. He said you can take a young blood, you can drop a pot call in his hand, a $90 pot call. You can show him on X and point him in the right direction. He said he walks enough, he's gonna kill a turkey.
yeah,
There ain't no doubt about it. I was like, yeah, I said that's 100% true. And I don't think the amount of burning, predation control, I don't think the amount of farmers trying to, limit the amount of herbicides or whatever they say on their crops. I don't think that matches the amount of people that are in the woods that are killing turkeys. I'm like you, man. I don't think you can outrun that problem.
No, I think that we've caused it.
Yeah,
We've done it ourselves, with
100%.
the advancements in technology and with the growth of hunting and killing turkeys and traveling to kill turkeys,
Yep.
we have done it to ourselves. And if it does, hopefully, pray to God it doesn't ever happen. But if we would ever wipe them out, we would only have ourselves to blame. And that's a sad fact, but it's true.
Yes.
And like you just said, with OnX, not only in today's day and age can you stand in the woods and hear a turkey gobble and pull up OnX and see everything, every barrier between you and him, and you can look at your phone and say he's exactly right there, and that's exactly where I need to get to kill him. But also, I can sit right here on my computer and I can scout a place clear across the country in a matter of minutes and drop all my pins and then go out there and kill a turkey. That's something that you didn't have in the 90s. You were calling places and getting topo maps if you were getting.
Yes. Yep.
That's a whole different ball game. And you could argue that in itself OnX, I mean, you can argue realistic decoys, you can argue TSS, you can argue a multitude of things, but you can argue that OnX is the most biggest factor in that because I mean, to me, it is because it's just something that we just haven't had in the past, and it gives us truly a huge edge.
1000%. And I used to ask, because we used to hunt bear coon hunting. We used to hunt up in the big mountains, as we call them, big mountains, up in national forest. And I would always ask when I was a kid, I was like, how can we look at whose property we're on? Because there's a lot of properties that come in on that, national forest. It's like, how do we know we're on someone else's property? Well, we drop down in the foothills and we start hunting, private land. How do we know whose property we're on? Boom, OnX pops up, right? Now you know exactly where you're at based on the tax maps.
Yep.
Dude, that changed the game. Like you say, I can sit on my couch. We've scouted places, and I'm not gonna hotspot no places, but we've scouted places. Me and a buddy of mine, we've scouted them for 2.5 months, looking at them. We get out there, the pin that we drop, we kill turkeys at
Yep.
multiple states. And I
Yep.
know that I'm a moron. I got a county school education, so I know I'm a moron. So I know that there's other people out there doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
Um, is that it? Are there a lot of people doing exactly what we do? Probably not, but there are enough people in their area that are doing exactly what we're saying. And I talked to a game warden last year, run into him, which is not the most opportunistic thing you ever want to do as a hunter. But I run into him and we got to talking and I asked him, I said, how many trespassing tickets have you wrote? He said, man, I'll be honest with you. He said in the last 4 years since OnX has really become like mainstream, he said, I haven't wrote any. And I
Hmm.
was like, seriously? And I could tell you in the county we were in, the numbers of turkey kills have just went up. So
Yeah.
they're not only legal kills, but the amount of kills has skyrocketed. And you're sitting there and you're like, well, I mean, it's legal, but at the same time, are we diminishing the tradition that me and you grew up with? So it's a very hard topic, man.
It is. It's a hot topic, and it gets brought up every year. It seems like, and beat to
Yep,
death. The facts are facts, and people just have to live with them, whether they like the truth of it or not.
very
But
true.
like you said, I mean, not only can you scout right there on your couch or whatever, scout a place that's public land. You can also look at private land, and it gives you their addresses, and you can reach out to people and get permission.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
another
great
huge
point.
It's
Yep.
another huge advantage. Or if you're in a place you can out of state or even in state, I do it here a lot. You'll be looking and be like, well, there's a turkey over there. Well, this is the guy's house. This is where he lives. Let's just drive over there and ask him. You know what I
Go
mean?
talk
Like
to him. Yep.
those kinds of things are very prevalent now, where they weren't in the past. So I mean, it just opens up a huge wave of options for people, really. And I'm exactly like you. Like, we had a hunt last year out of state where me and my buddy were going together. We scouted this place for 2 months before we went, multiple areas in this state we were going
Right.
to. And but we had this one general area that we were kind of focusing on. And one of the very first pins that we dropped, both of us dropped it on the same place and sent it to one another. And we were like, we're going to kill a turkey right there. And that ended up being the exact place we killed a turkey at.
Yep.
So, and actually, funny thing about that spot was we went there the first day. We left here like really, really early in the morning. My daughter's raced barrel horses, and our barrel race got canceled that day due to rain. So I called Alan and was like, hey, let's go on and leave. So we left that early that next morning and drove out there in time to hunt. We got there about 9 o'clock or something, and we was driving to these gates to kind of check access and stuff. And that gate was the first one we went to check, and there was like 12 trucks at the gate. No joke. There was like 12 trucks there. We couldn't even get pulled in there. There were so many trucks, and all of them were locals. They were all local
Oh
tax.
yeah.
And it was the first weekend of this state's season. And so I said, well, that's why, because all the locals are in here hunting
Yeah.
because it's their first weekend or whatever. So we went out and scouted some other places. And then the next morning, we really didn't know where we were going to go. And we kind of went out the road, and we came to a T in the road. And I said, hang a left, let's go down there. I said, there is a reason that all them locals are at that gate. There has got to be turkeys behind that gate. And that's too good of a pin. We know that from just looking at the map.
Yeah.
We go down there and we pulled in, and there was nobody there. We were the first truck in the lot, and this other truck pulls in 10 minutes or so after us, and there's like a sign in board that flips down and you have to sign in or whatever. And we didn't even know that it was there. So those guys go up to that sign in board and they pull it down, and they're signing their names. And we go there and talk to them, and we were like, hey, where are you guys going or whatever? And they said, oh, we're going back in here. And I said, okay, well, that's kind of the direction we were heading to, but there's plenty of ground back in there that, we can hunt it too or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I killed a turkey in there yesterday. But he said, man, we heard a bunch in there. And I was like, I looked at Alan and was like, yeah, I knew that's why all them trucks were here.
Yeah.
He said, well, you can follow us down through here, and I'll show you where you can park. It'll cut your walk in half to where we wanted to go. And so, long story short, we went back in there and went straight to the pin that we had dropped. It was on like a high knob that we could hear all around us. And we ended up calling in 4 gobblers and killing 2 of them that day. And we weren't even there for 24 hours, not even a whole 24
Yeah.
hours. So we tagged them, went and tore camp down, and we headed home. So I mean, it's just that those kinds of things are not happening 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Because you just don't have the access to the maps and stuff like we do now.
You 100%. And would you say killers gonna kill? Yeah, I mean
That's a fact.
you yeah, and you take and I tell you something, Zach, that I didn't realize years ago that with OnX coming about, being so mainstream, hunt stand, all those different things, I didn't realize how many guys did not know how to read a topo map. I
Yep.
did not know that. And like I sat down with a guy one day, a buddy of mine, and we were looking at this piece, and the way he was talking about it, I was like, no, that's a ridge, not a holler, and like we're kind of looking at it, and he finally told me, he's like, I don't know how to read these maps. And so I finally kind of, explained like the basics to it. But I've talked to so many different people over the last probably 6, 7 years that don't know how to read topo maps.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, dude, when I was growing up, this is all we had. We used to order maps from like, uh, National Park Service, National Geographic, they would send those like maps out, like you would like section out like a section of the national forest, and that's what we went by. And so I always thought like people like just knew how to read topo maps, and like you could get back in those days, you could get like a subscription to read you know, like different sections of like different areas and stuff, like with topo readings and stuff. But when I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, dude. I was like, I told him, I was like, dude, I was like, when you learn how to read these, you'll be able to go anywhere. And I mean, and that's what we read.
Oh, it's an absolute game changer. I mean, I can remember growing up, like all I hunted growing up was my family, my dad's side of the family owned a big farm, and all of us, my uncles and my cousins and all of us went and deer hunted it and stuff. And that's pretty well all I hunted for a long time growing up, and never really hunted any public ground or anything like that. And I can remember us having a topo map like on the wall of our farm and stuff. And I can
Oh
remember
yeah.
like, looking at it with my cousin
Yeah.
and stuff, but like I didn't like really deep dive into it and learn how to do it or learn how to read one until later on in life when I started hunting other ground and
Oh yeah.
unf unfamiliar ground. But and like you said, you had to order the maps or go to the courthouse or whatever you may be and get the map for that area. And yeah, I mean, I didn't learn how to read one until I was older, probably in high school at least. And but yeah, I mean, once you learn how to read one, I mean, all of that principle applies everywhere, and you can pretty much go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, man. We're drawing down on time here. I gotta ask you this. Why'd you trim your beard?
That's like what everybody asked me in Nashville. Listen, this is a funny story. That was like the hot topic every time I met somebody in Nashville or saw somebody. They were like, "Dude, your beard is gone." And like I've got some buddies here that I hunt with. They have a channel called The Untamed, and like one of them was like, "Dude,
Oh, I know them boys. Yeah.
yeah, yeah." Josh was like, "Dude, everybody's going to think Kingdom Connection went and hired an intern or something this year. Like they're not even going to know who you are." And I shook people's hand, and they would look at me like they were, and I was like, "You don't know who I am, do you?" And they were like, "No."
Yeah.
And I told them, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it was you. Like you're a different
Yeah.
person." But no, it's funny. Like I had my beard, and it was like literally like that long,
Yeah,
and
dude. That's all I've ever seen you with.
I hadn't cut it in like 7 years, and my wife loved it because it was like see through on the ends of it, and she hates the bushy stage, like this stage. She likes
Yeah.
it when it gets longer. And my wife's a beautician; she's a hairdresser, so she like babies it and takes care of it and everything. Well, one night I kind of got a wild hair that I was going to trim it up a little bit on the ends. I wasn't going to cut it like this, but I was going to trim it up on the end. So I trimmed it and I thought it looked pretty good. And she walked in the door from work and she looked at me and she was like, "What did you do?" And I was like, "I just trimmed my beard. Like it'll come back. It's not a big deal. Does it look bad?" And she was like, "Yeah, I hate it. It looks terrible." So like the next morning I was kind of rushing because I had to go to the office, and I was like, "Well, I'll just trim it up like she told me to or whatever." And I cut it even more off. And then she came in there and she was like, "That looks even worse." She said, just cut it off and start over." So I did, and she said, "Gosh, your timing is so bad." She said, "Nobody in Nashville is going to know who you are now." And I was like, "Well, it's okay. The people that know me." So
Yeah, dude, it's so funny because I seen you did a post I think like a week ago or something, and I was like, is that the same guy? Like I was
yeah,
looking at it,
yeah,
because Zach, if you want to go ahead and plug your YouTube channel on here, we'll go ahead and do it. But that's what I remember you from. I
yeah,
Years ago I seen you on YouTube or something, and I was like, that old boy right there, because you were hunting in the mountains, man. I was like,
yeah.
that old boy knows exactly what I'm going through. So that's why, that's how me and you, that's how I kind of started knowing about you and everything. So go ahead and plug your YouTube and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Kingdom Connection. Um, Actually, it started as Grunt Gobble and Gills Outdoors or GGG Outdoors, and our YouTube channel was already started, and it would let me take that name out. So I think it says GGG Outdoors / Kingdom Connection.
Yeah.
Um, but that's our YouTube channel. predominantly turkey hunting. I mean, we used to film a lot of fishing and deer hunting and stuff, and we still do every now and then. We'll do a deer hunt, but we're predominantly turkey hunting now, turkey hunting channel. And you can find us on Instagram, Facebook. Find me on both of those as well. And then I build calls too, and do a little bit of everything. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Shoot, that's awesome, man. I'm so glad, man, to get to talk to you in person. Well, I mean, as person as you can be,
Yeah.
through the computer. But, um, man, when I first seen your stuff, the first video I ever seen, you were coming, y'all went up, you hunted up on a mountain, and you were coming off, and the sun was, I mean, it was beautiful, man. I was like, I need to talk to that old boy right there. I said, because I said, I know exactly what he's going through right now. And I can't remember if y'all killed one or what, but I just remember the hike up there. Y'all was all breathing hard and everything. And I was just like, yeah, I need to talk to that guy right there. But man, I'm gonna keep in touch with you, man. Which, I kind of look at all your stuff during the spring anyway. So,
Yeah.
but, yeah, so anybody listening, man, go check his stuff out. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And Zach, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on, brother.
I really appreciate you having me on, and always like to just sit and talk turkeys with another turkey killer. So it's been a pleasure.
100%. Hey, I'm gonna have you back on, man, if you want to do it.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, man. Hey, y'all have a good night, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
See you, buddy.
See you.